She raises the game.
Because I had the button ready, I was gonna push it as soon as the vote, and I had it online, but I said, no. I don't know, you don't.
Honor among,
You don't.
It's hard to. It's hard to. Yeah, you did. I need to come that.
How are you?
Should be good. Linda, you get that?
February 1st was the hearing. And February 28th is one.
Hey, need a gallon.
You ready? Oh, get the camera.
Good to see you.
Sure. You just look at the food now. You're welcome.
You got it?
Meeting of the Caddo Parish Commission for January 17th, 2023 at 3:30. About to convene. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Hopkins. Here. Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young. Here. Commissioner Burrell.
Here.
Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Present.
Commissioner Cochran.
Present.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
All right, you have 10 of 12 members present. That is a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll have our invocation by Commissioner Ron Cawthorn, and we'll have our pledge of allegiance by Commissioner John Atkins. Would you stand, please?
Our minds being clear. Let us pray. Today, my Heavenly Father, once again, I'm thanking you for this day. Make what we do here today, my Heavenly Father, not only make this city better, this parish better, but glorify you. Bless each and every one that's assembled here. Bless their families. And most of all, my Heavenly Father, we just thank you for being God all by yourself. Dear man, all the bless you, our Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in facing the flag and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. First responders and military personnel, both active and required, may render a hand of brow salute. All others, hand over the chest, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn and Commissioner John Atkins for the invocation and the pledge. Mr. Clerk, we're down to agenda additions.
I believe we do have two potential agenda additions. If you will refresh your agenda, you'll see there are two items. The first being a potential agenda addition from Commissioner Jackson to authorize a special resolution for Deacon James Murray, who's retiring from Mount Canaan Baptist Church. And the second being a potential agenda addition from Commissioner Epperson, authorizing a special resolution for Grammy nominee LaKendria Browder.
Motion to expand the agenda, and add both of these special resolutions.
Okay, so I hear a motion. Okay, a motion from Commissioner Gage Watts, seconded by Commissioner Epperson. Mr. Clerk, vote.
Well, at this point, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing for.
Okay. The public hearing is now officially open. If there are those who want to speak for or against, now is the time. Okay, I see none. The public, yeah, Well, it's closed, let's put it that way.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed, and you would like to move forward with the vote now?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
All vote?
It must pass unanimously.
Sorry.
It must pass unanimously to be added to the agenda.
Right.
Commissioner Atkins, it hasn't registered if you clicked it. Thank you. All right, that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition.
Okay.
So those items will be added at the end of your new business section today.
All right then, down to citizens' comments. I do not have any forms here this morning, or today, this evening. I assume that there are none.
I'm sorry, there is one in here.
Okay. All right, we are up for public comments or citizens' comments. And the first person that we have, and the only one I see here, is Ms. Jane Tappy. Come up, Ms. Tappy. Glad to have you. Just state your name for the records.
Hey there, Jane Tappy, PO 764 in Blanchard, 71009. Okay, before I get started, obviously we don't have a full room, so if I go over my 3 minutes, am I gonna be okay?
We would have to, you have to extend it for you, Ms. Tappy. So you have 3 minutes initially.
Thank you. Okay. I came about this 1 month or so ago, and I can't believe I'm having to come back here again today to do the same thing. I asked you last month if you'd lost your minds. Evidently, I should have put more thought into that because I wonder about the answer now. I'm talking about your resolution number 3 that's being brought back again for 2023 concerning the R143 additional district. What is your purpose? Do you seriously understand that your approach is flat out discrimination? You are saying anyone who cannot afford to build a home with stick, brick, cedar, or other materials is not wanted, nor will they be approved on any lot that is over 1/4 of an acre or so, the 12,000 square feet. What you're saying is you don't want us to buy a couple of acres and enjoy the country life. You don't want us to buy a home where we're not crowded up against our neighbor in our neighborhood. You only want us in a trailer park, if you will. You don't want us to spread out and have a beautiful, serene home setting like some other folks. You want us in trailer parks with other trashy manufactured and mobile homes. You want us to keep our mobile and manufactured homes that will only decrease in value, and they will never keep their value. You want us to keep them out of sight and only in the appropriate areas. You're saying you'll never be able to maintain the value of your manufactured or mobile home because you're trashy and because you choose to live in a manufactured or a mobile home. You are going to destroy the value to that upscale home on that 5-acre parcel next door. Your proposed R143 zoning with the language same uses as R12 and not contain any uses that are only found in RA districts is flawed. Number one, there is not one description of an approved principal use that is only RA. So your language can't say that if there is no such critter. There is not one that is only RA. So that would make your R143 groundless in that. But I'll go on. Your language says larger lot sizes while restricting other uses that would be incompatible with residential use.
Can we get a time extension?
Motion and a second.
Okay, motion to extend, how many minutes?
We're gonna vote on it.
Sorry,
1 minute.
1 minute?
Okay, you mean residences. You mean where people live. You mean,
We're gonna have to either vote on that unanimously or.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. You said 1 minute.
Sorry? All We'll give it to.
I'm good with it,
Okay.
man.
All right, by acclamation?
60 seconds.
Okay.
Somebody just restarted on the clock.
Try to adhere to that if you will.
Thank you. All right, we good?
We're good.
All right, so your larger lots would be incompatible with residential use. Residences meaning where people live. The definition of incompatible, not capable of existing in agreement or harmony with someone else, not capable of living or working together happily or harmoniously, or antagonistic. So what you're saying is anyone who chooses to live in a manufactured home or mobile home does not want to live in harmony with their neighbor. They're incapable of living or working together happily with their neighbor. They're antagonistic. Or perhaps, are you speaking of that home next door that's worth over $200,000? Are they being antagonistic or, inhospitable? Either way, you're saying living in a residence is incompatible if you have a neighbor. Doesn't make sense. Your language says R12, you can do 18 other things, and I have a list of them if you'd like it, but you cannot put a manufactured home. We're not fighting here to put manufactured homes in restricted covenant neighborhoods, Northwood Hills, Southern Trace. We're not asking for that.
Time up, Mr. President.
I got like 15 seconds, please.
Okay, Ms. Taylor.
We are fighting for the regular people that just want to put a nice home for themselves and their children. I brought y'all these figures last month, y'all. I don't understand. Were you just not listening? You don't care? What is the deal that you have against manufactured homes?
Okay, Ms. Tafford, just leave the information again, if you will. We appreciate it.
I'll be glad to provide whatever y'all need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty then, that takes us to visitors. And
Reports. That brings us to reports where we have no scheduled visitors today. I'm sorry. So we would move to reports.
Okay, administrative report.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. President Burrell and others. Good to see you all today. My first item is the Juvenile Detention Center. I typically give you the data on that location. We have 26 children in the center. We have 5 awaiting OJJ transportation, and we have 5 that are 17-year-olds. And then we still have 8 at CCC. Also, we want to give an update on the harbor. Hey, Mr. Clay, would you come forward and give us?
Hey, good afternoon. So the good news for today, and Kelly Todd, the Executive Director of Volunteers for Youth Justice, is here with me. The Harbor, which is the one-stop shop that you all are partnering with the school board and the city council and the mayor's office, the DA's office. There's quite a collaboration there, but it is opening. There's going to be a ribbon cutting, I believe is scheduled for Monday the 23rd. We just found out today. The invitations, I believe, went out to each of you. I think Mr. Everson sent them to both emails. And so that's the ribbon cutting. There's going to be a grand opening, hopefully about maybe 30 days later. We're hoping to be ready for families to come there on March 1st. But this is essentially a one-stop shop. It's really for juvenile justice. It's all services that a family might need, mental health, tutoring, all sorts of things. But it's really not just juvenile justice. It's all families in need. So really what we're hoping for is that it's going to become a resource for the school system and for community members to go when the children are younger. We're hoping that when a child is 7 or 8 and they need services, their family could be referred there by the school, and then they never come see me when they're 15. So we're hoping it's real crime prevention in long term. And so happy to answer any questions, but it is rolling out. It's the Building 6 on Knight Street. This is the old special ed building for the school system. The design of it is it's 55,000 square feet. All of the agencies that are there in wraparound services are renting that space, and their rent is going to self-sustain the program. So we won't need any kind of taxpayer funding or anything from the commission or the city council or anyone to sustain it. The rent will self-sustain it. And so it could continue to be a service for families in the parish.
I see that there are several questions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Miss.
Oh, no, you did a great job. One thing I did want to add is a lot of the services that the commission and the parish have been so supportive of will all be here as well with a special focus on mental health. We struggle finding quality mental health services for our families, so we're bringing in some of the top quality mental health services so that when they walk in, they never have to leave. A lot of times when they walk into us, we have to refer out and they never make it there, or they get sent to a provider who's really not quality. And so we're hopeful that this will just be a place where people can walk in and get anything they need and not have to leave.
Okay.
It'll house the misdemeanor referral center and all the truancy programs, a lot of the programs at BYJ and juvenile court.
Okay, I have several questions from commissioners, but before that, I wanted to ask, how does this differ from the Rutherford House and some of the others?
So the Rutherford House is one of the many group homes in Louisiana. If a child is adjudicated delinquent and put into custody of the state, they can either go to state prison, they can go to a group home, or they can go on probation. So the group homes are non-secure group homes where children would go and live and go to school and get all the help they need, but they're removed from their home and placed there. So the Rutherford House is a group home. It services the whole state. Primarily, a lot of the kids are Caddo kids, but a lot of the kids are from all over Louisiana, judges all over the state.
So they pretty well changed their mission, because I was involved whenever Rutherford House was set up, and the mission was a little different at the time, more truancy than.
So they used to, that's correct. The original task, Truancy Assessment Service Center, was actually run through Rutherford House. Now that was a good time. That was 20 years ago. Yeah. I know you've been doing this a long time. That was a long time ago. Truancy is now, the contract that we have with Truancy is now with VYJ for K through 5, and then 6 through 12 is actually run by the school district itself. But K through 5 we now contract with VYJ. Rutherford House still does have probably a lot of the things you may remember, the vocational programs they have, automotive, all of that work, that's still there at Rutherford House. But that's generally with the boys that are in the group homes.
Okay. Commissioner Gage-Wise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Clay, Kelly, thank you both for all of your hard work, all of the things that's come out of committee to get this one-stop shop. And I heard you saying a different name. Can you expound on that name? Because I know we've continually referred to it as the one-stop shop, but you have a real name for it now, so I just wanted you to expound on that.
It is the harbor, with the idea being that it's a safe harbor for families, but that is the name. It's the harbor. It is run by the Volunteers for Youth Justice. The building will still be owned by the school system. And then, as I said, the funding program is self-sustaining.
From the tenants?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I also wanted to ask you another question about, I heard that we have 26 in the detention center at this time.
We do. I just got a text from Andrew Randall, who's working on that. We're down to 25 now. The judges have hearings this afternoon where they may hopefully be releasing some kids, but we're down to 25. As you may have seen, we had the 5 kids come in over the weekend with a relatively serious situation. That we don't generally get 5 at one time. That really jumped us up, and we had to handle that over the weekend so that we could take those kids in, put us at 26. And now we're working to kind of process some others. I believe we have 5 kids in OJJ custody that are ready to be picked up. So if that could happen faster, we'd be down at 20 and back to normal.
Okay, I just wanted you to also put emphasis on that, being that it was a holiday weekend as well.
It was.
Okay.
We struggle. 3-day weekends are lovely to have, but if you work in juvenile detention, you get a little bit of heartburn because you know it can be a little bit of trouble. But I should also say, we'd be remiss, we're actually here to say thank you because the commission, part of the American Rescue Funds, were given to the harbor. The way that we were able to open it was, I believe, $150,000 for 2022, and again another $150,000 in 2023 of the American Rescue dollars going to go so that we can get the harbor up and running. What it's going to take, hopefully, is about 3 years for full tenants to be in there and the money coming in. The school system is giving us that grace period, basically, that they will maintain the utilities and whatnot for a 3-year span. The sooner we can be completely self-sustaining, the better, but that's our limit, basically, be to by 3 years. So your generosity with the American Rescue Dollars helped us do that.
Thank you, Clay. That's it, Mr. President.
Okay, Madam Commissioner. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Clay and Kelly, for all you all do. Just so everybody that may be listening knows about the ribbon cutting, can you please brief us again on the day and times at January 23rd?
January 23rd, 10 a.m.
And on Knight Street, is there an address or?
3004.
3004 Knight Street.
3004, thank you.
Yes, as you come down Knight Street, you'll see there's building 1 through 5, and you'll see building 6 is the signage there, and we'll be getting signage for the harbor.
Okay, thank you. And then secondly, when we have 26 people, there's 24 rooms at juvenile detention, correct?
Correct.
So where, and you've told us this before, I've just forgotten, where do we keep the extras?
Well, unfortunately, we don't. At 26, we are at capacity and full.
We're above capacity, right?
Well, 24 is our, yes, so essentially the way that it's designed with the state, with being audited, we have, within 24 hours, we have to get back down to 24.
Okay, so you have a grace period for.
We have that grace period, but at 26, we are completely full.
You're over capacity.
We are over capacity. And so, I think there's been similar messaging from the sheriff about CCC. When you reach full capacity, there's not much you can do. We communicate with the judges regularly. We give them a list. When anywhere we get near 24, we give them a list of recommendations of who might be able to get out on monitor, who could get out safely. They have to make that determination. So over the weekend, they did some of that movement so that we could bring those 5 kids in with those more serious charges. They again have our list of recommendations to be released right now, which includes the 5 OJJ kids to be picked up. But we need to get back down to 24 so we have that grace in case more kids get arrested.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Let me ask you, once you reach capacity and if you don't get down to the 24 within,
President, you have someone on the board, you gotta get in line.
I'm sorry?
You need to get in line. You have other commissioners waiting to speak.
Well, I thought the president had that.
No, sir.
Okay, well, the other ones did. I thought that I was extended the same
I
right.
wasn't the parliamentarian then, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, it would be good if you were. Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just waiting. It didn't matter to me. Clay, Kelly, I see Tim out there. I know it's taken quite a work, a lot of sweating and sleepless nights from Tim to get this to fruition. I would like for us to, and thank you, President Burrell, I'll be chairing the Juvenile Committee this year. I would like for us to take a deep dive into what do we anticipate some of the short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals for the harbor so that we can start talking through those. Because one of the things that, as my mind is turning, is if a student comes with the focus being on mental health, if that person already has a mental health provider, what happens if that provider is not there? Again, that's not a question that we have to answer here today, but I would like for us to start thinking that through because, as you all know, this can get very competitive.
Freedom of choice.
Right.
Right.
And I don't think we want to get in the middle of that.
Right.
Can't. Right.
And so how are we going to work through those? What are going to be our processes? Integration of the 988 stuff into this as well, and what Dr. Patterson and his team are working on.
Absolutely.
How are we going to work with crisis intervention? So I just see a lot of pluses coming out of this, but I think having that conversation on the front end and briefing the committee on how to get that done. I'm excited about what the potential is for it, and so I'll be looking for it. I don't have a date yet. I'll pull the committee members' schedule so that we can get a date to just kind of set up that initial
Fantastic. We already have a lot of that worked out. We deal on a regular basis. When families come in, they've already got a provider.
Right.
The way we're able to work with that, so we
Right.
can definitely get you that information.
Right, well, it'll be good for us to just kind of have those conversations. Because like I said, I just could see a scenario popping off where it, you know, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when that scenario happens. And I'm also wanting to talk about some of this issue with the overcrowding at juvenile detention center as well, particularly with the monitors. I know we paid for some type of pilot with some eye watches or something. I remember, did we ever get that stuff rolled out? If not, where is it? So just kind of a general update on where we are. And again, you don't have to do that here.
100%.
I just wanted you kind of just be on note that I'll be.
We'll be ready as soon as the committee's formed and you want to have a meeting. We'll be
Okay.
ready.
Okay.
We all have all that information.
Cool, that'll
Yeah.
work. Well, that's it for me on the harbor update. Again, congratulations. Don't know that I'll make it to the ribbon cutting, but I know a lot of people can have a sigh of relief once y'all cut that ribbon. So
Appreciate
glad
it.
to see it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Just a second, please.
Yes, sir.
Having some technical difficulty. But while we're trying to do that, I want to go back to my question. My question is, once you reach capacity, and then you're not able to get it back to 24 within that 24-hour period, what happens at that point?
So if we are audited at that point by the state, we could get a write-up essentially, and that means that they're going to come and need to get an explanation from us on what went wrong, what our plan is not to have it happen again. If they come back a second time, and this is unfortunately a path where you might lose your licensure. So you can't be written up without an explanation and have a plan and not have it happen again. It is, I mean, as stressful as it is and as it sounds, we unfortunately deal with it pretty regularly. That we get to 25 and get back down below that. And we're in constant communication with the judges and with OJJ to deal with it. So again, generally speaking, March, April, September, October, those 4 months, we're almost always at capacity and dealing with that, and we're unfortunately kind of get used to it and are ready for it. This doesn't happen too often in January.
Penalized under those circumstances?
We could be if we were
I'm saying,
audited.
are you the only one that are penalized, not the judges, not because they are part of this whole program?
Oh, right. No, we would be the only ones. The detention center's license through the Department of Children and Family Services is the only thing that would be in jeopardy. Yes.
All right, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that the public doesn't get all up in the alarm because of what discussion you just had. Out of the 64 parishes, how many parishes have the juvenile detention center?
There are 13 juvenile detention centers in the state.
All right, so that means you got the majority of the state parishes don't even have one.
Correct.
All right, and the ones that don't have one, what does those juveniles go?
Very often they go home on a monitor. Some of them will work out a deal to rent one bed from one of the detention centers. For example, the Florida Parish's detention center has 108 beds, and they rent to multiple parishes. Of course, Ware down in Coshada rents to something like 6-7 parishes. So they'll reach out if it's a very serious charge. They'll try to rent one bed if they need to.
And
Most
we
of them,
also have
frankly,
that same capability of renting a bed if we need to, or you have CCC for the ones that are violent.
if we ever reach that emergency level, the idea of renting a bed is something that is one of the options we would have. Yes.
Okay. That's
We've
all.
never had to do that.
I just don't want the public to think that, you just turning juveniles loose that have committed serious crimes just because we don't have a bed for them.
Even right now, I mean, we have the 4 or 5 kids that can go to OJJ. We've got other kids that are in for punishment. They're not dangerous. They're being given a term of 2 weeks as a punishment for something they did, skipping school or something like that. And so there are still kids we could release if we had to, if we had truly dangerous kids coming in.
I just want the public to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, are there
Okay.
any other comments or questions come from the commission?
Yeah, Clay?
Sir?
Hey, has things improved much with the state OJJ operations? I know they
It
were
would
in peril
appear-
at one time.
It would appear to be about the same. The struggle for OJJ is that they are backed up as well.
Right.
There was a letter, I believe, the former director of OJJ sent a letter, this was maybe 6 weeks ago, saying that they were full and there were 50 children in line around the state to come into OJJ custody. So the reason they're not taking the 5 is because they're backed up as well.
Right.
And it's a struggle all over the state.
Right.
It sure is.
Okay. I appreciate it, Clay, and wonderful work. Kelly, appreciate it. Tim, thanks too. Doing a great job.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you all in that facility as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Clay. Appreciate it.
Okay, you finished, Dr. Wilson?
No, sir, I got a couple more things. Also, we have.
I got one more
No,
question for Clay.
No, we
Clay,
still have,
one more question.
now we have Epperson and then Jackson.
No, I think there's another question from Commissioner Jackson for Clay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if Ken.
Mr. Chairman, I just would like for Mr. Walker and the young lady to introduce themselves, their names and their positions. We may know them, but the listener audience
okay.
probably don't.
Thank you, Mr. Epperson. Clay Walker, I'm the Director of Juvenile Services for Caddo Parish.
Kelly Todd, I'm the Executive Director for Volunteers for Youth Justice.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Clay, I hadn't heard us say it in a while, but I remember at a time when we would talk about having the lowest recidivism. Is that still true, or we hadn't talked about it in a while?
It is not really, we have not had meetings where we get together to report that statewide since COVID, but ours is now down 2% to 17%. So it is the lowest that I know of reported. No one has, I've not seen anybody, ours used to be 19%, and it was the lowest at the time. It's now 17%. So the judges and probation, we're doing the best we can with the kids that are coming in that we have, and that recidivism rate is low.
Right. And when you say recidivism, we're talking about reoffending.
Reoffenses, yes, sir.
Reoffend.
Preventing a child from reoffending once they come in. Only 17% of the kids that come in to juvenile detention reoffend.
Okay. And just last one, do y'all, and I think I've asked this before, do y'all track those that are right there on the edge? They may not reoffend as a juvenile, but they offend as an adult, or y'all don't get into that?
We struggle with the data on that to follow them as adults. That's a conversation we need to have, I think, with the sheriff and on the adult level. But we track every single child. If we release them, hold them, put them in programs, everything, we track to see graduate from school, everything that they do. Unfortunately, the numbers, the 17% that do, where we do have recidivism, I think a fair number of those are graduating into the adult system.
Okay.
Frankly, if we're not able to turn it around, I don't see it turning around in that young adult life yet either.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Clay.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Clay.
Okay, Commissioner Gage Watch for the second time.
Yeah, Mr. President, I just heard Commissioner Jackson say that he's gonna be the chair of the Juvenile Justice. Have you released, those committees yet?
I have.
Okay, I haven't received them.
Well, they should have been for
They
several
were
days now.
distributed on Friday.
Okay,
Yeah, check your email, it should be in there.
check it. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to continue,
Any other?
Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Clay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner, I usually report on the COVID cases, and we were hit pretty hard in December, but we have no reported cases for January to date, which we are grateful for that. You should have at your station the financial report for December. And also, we did request RFPs for the Housing Trust Fund. We received several proposals, and we narrowed that down. We have a few more questions we are trying to gather from those who had submitted, and their deadline is the 23rd of January to have it back to us. So that process is moving forward. We hope to have it wrapped up in there shortly at the end of this month and move forward with the selection.
Okay.
And-
Commissioner Jackson, are you back on?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, on the Housing Trust Fund.
Yes, sir.
I do want to make sure that, mine, because I've had this conversation with you before, is that those final selections would come back to this body for ratification or whatever. So I think that having that level of governance is that it
Yes, sir.
requires it to come back here. I appreciate the process, pretty thorough process. I hadn't heard much complaints. I did get pulled by Pastor Damon Humphrey, who said he has not heard back. So I do think whether,
Yes, sir.
however the outcome was, I do think
So
that
when the outcome is finalized, we'll send those who were recipients and those who were non-recipients correspondence.
Yeah, and I would like for us to also remember that I think we have 6 years to
Yes, sir.
expend
That's
ARPA
correct.
dollars, and then I think there's some additional dollars that'll come in from ERAP 2 that may be able to be possibly moved over there. And
Yes,
so
that's
if we
correct.
could be diligent in how we
Right.
do that process, I don't see a rush is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't
there'll
think we ought
probably
to
be
rush
several
it.
rounds of this
Right.
process.
Right, so,
Yes.
but I do appreciate that. Now, I did get something about, I think I recall seeing something or having a conversation about a study or something that National Development Council said that they wanted to do about our housing needs assessments or something like that. Do I remember that?
Okay, not to my knowledge. Erica, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, we're talking about a market analysis.
Yeah.
We're developing our policies and procedures for our program.
Okay.
And working with NDC, we would do a market analysis and go out to the community to try to determine
The needs.
what the needs are to help
Gotcha.
develop our goals of the program.
And do they have an anticipated time frame? Because, one of my concerns has been is I don't want them to take a year and pay for a year's worth of,
Services.
services for a
Right.
study.
Right.
And that's been one of my
Yeah.
frustrations. I do think that
Yeah.
having the market analyst gives them the ability, or gives us the ability to go to the Raymond James and the Merrill Lynch's of the world
Right.
to tap into those resources, into that secondary money market.
Right.
But I do think that, what I don't want to see is I think we're on the hook for about $80,000, $90,000 a year. And I just think that whatever that is,
Yeah.
we need to get more than just a study out of it.
Right. Yes, sir, I agree. And the most urgent things, there's two things, the policy and
Okay.
the analysis.
Okay. And have they given us an ETA on when they expect to?
It should happen in short order. Once we finish the 23rd's comments,
Okay.
then they should be free to move the process forward.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be checking in frequently on
We'll
just
keep
where
you
we
all updated
are.
on it.
But again, I appreciate you. I appreciate Eric. I appreciate Haley. And what's our friend who manages the
Ms. Valerie Gunn?
Valerie, but the other one that was at the
Jaleesa
Jaleesa. Yeah. So appreciate y'all. Jaleesa or Jamisi, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, no problem.
But appreciate y'all's work on it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Well, Mr. President, that concludes my report today, unless y'all have some questions for me.
Well, I see December financials, will you be reporting on that?
Pardon me?
The next thing on the agenda?
And also, I just mentioned it to you all that the report is at your station.
Okay.
And y'all typically look at it. If you have
So that
any
is-
questions, we'll be glad to answer those questions you may have, because it's a rather thick report. We typically don't
Okay.
go through it.
Okay, he's shown the December financial. Are there any questions on that? If not, that takes us to commissioners' remarks. Get on the board if you have any remarks. I see none at this point.
So
At
we
least
move
on
to,
my board, it's not.
I see none either. Would you like to move to President's report?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a President's report today?
Oh, no.
Okay, we'll move through. We have no old business scheduled today, so that takes us to new business, where you have a number of items. The first item, 11.1, is authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6301 of 2022. And I'm sorry, that was initially 2022. We are now in 2023. But it does not change the title. It should be fine. Related to CTAP 22-4-P, That's an ordinance to amend Volume 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo as amended, the Caddo Parish Unified Development Code, to replace the terms Metropolitan Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals with Caddo Parish Planning and Zoning Commission as applicable and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. That comes from the Parish Planning Commission, and you'll see that does have a very large number of attachments. Those attachments represent all of the places throughout the Unified Development Code where those language needs to be changed, as well as some explanatory documents. The next item is 11.2, authorize, I'm sorry.
Want to vote on them individually, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
just got to read.
I see a motion from Lyndon Johnson and a second from John Atkins. We can vote? Okay, well, are there any comments? It looked like Commissioner Jackson just got on the board.
No, I just wanted to make sure, is everybody good with this? Ain't nobody gonna come down here and be upset about all this?
It's gonna be after
Me,
we
it just,
pass it.
huh?
It'll be after we pass it.
I can't.
It'll be after we pass it.
Oh, they gonna come after?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, shall we vote?
well, Mr. President, I think whatever we do, I think this got 2 weeks, whatever information we need to put out or whatever to the folks to make sure that they understand what it is, what is not, all that, because it just seems like it's always after the fact that issues come up. So I just really would encourage those folks whose districts are affected by this stuff to please engage your residents on it. So that just would be my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
Yeah, this is just to take out the Metropolitan Planning Commission, the name of it in all these areas, and also the Zoning Board of Appeals, because there's no longer a Zoning Board of Appeals under the Caddo Parish Planning and Zoning. It's just one board that handles it, so that's what this is. That's it.
Okay, we can vote now? All right. Time to vote.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us to 11.2, authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6302 of 2023. That's an ordinance to amend section 19-31 and 19-51 of the Code of Ordinances relative to purchase of adjudicated property for economic development and housing, to delete the requirement that the purchaser's plan of work be supported by the City of Shreveport's Office of Community Development and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Motion to introduce or whatever.
Okay, it's been moved. And second, motion by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Young. Commissioner Johnson.
Wait, the maker of the motion has the first option.
I'm sorry?
The maker of the motion has the first option.
Yeah, well. So, okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. No, this just is to cut down on some of the legwork and time in this process. I've heard from a couple of the folks, and so this is basically to kind of streamline that process. They really don't have to have the City of Shreveport's approval. It's their property, so kind of just giving them that autonomy to do what they need to do with it. So, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
He answered my question. That's why I was letting him go first to clarify the purpose of this.
Okay, unless I missed someone, Commissioner Hopkins.
Yeah, and I guess my question is, we removed the Shreveport Office of Community Development. What did they actually do on this type of stuff?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mayor.
Sure.
They really didn't do anything. It was just an extra step. And really and truly what they preferred to do was just offer a letter of support. They didn't want to get into the business of approving or not approving. They just wanted to offer a letter of support.
So I guess my second question is, so will we be approving through Public Works these projects, or how is it?
No, there's nothing to really approve.
Okay.
They're just purchasing the property.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, no one else? We can vote now? Please vote.
All right, and that motion carries with 10 in support and 1 abstention and 1 absent. I'm sorry, that abstention is Commissioner Cochran. Did you want to state?
From my perspective, and I heard what Commissioner Jackson just stated, but I'm not really comfortable voting on this particular one because, again, I don't know all the inner workings concerning the adjudication of properties here. And the thing is, again, we're talking about removing something, and I heard what you stated, but the thing is, again, is that I don't quite understand why we're moving it. I heard what you stated, but again, it just don't make sense to me. If they were doing nothing in the first place, why are we dealing with it, I guess is my question.
Okay, you're addressing that to the administration or to Commissioner Jackson?
Mr. President, we have a vote on the floor. All he needs to do is state his reason for abstention.
And that's it?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, we have a vote on the floor then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the next item. And that is 11.3, authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6303 of 2023. That's an ordinance declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and to authorize the parish administrator or a designee to sell the parish of Caddo's tax interest in certain surplus adjudicated properties and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. That's from Commissioner Jackson.
Motion to remove from the agenda.
We have a motion and a second on that.
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay. Motion from Commissioner Jackson.
I keep forgetting this thing.
And seconded by Commissioner Johnson.
Like a point of clarification here. I guess it does bring up an interesting point. What if we have these substitute type motions or different type motions? How would we do? We just go ahead and say those out loud as we have been, or is that able to be done on here?
You should be able to.
Well, never. If we got it, because I don't want to demonstrate right now. But I just thought that
You probably should hit request to speak.
Request to speak. Okay. All right.
When the motion is already on the floor, you can still
Gotcha.
use your request to speak.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay. Is that it, Commissioner Jackson?
That's good.
Anyone else? Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Johnson. We can vote now? Okay, if you would, vote.
And that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 absent. That brings us to 11.4, authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6304 of 2023. That's an ordinance providing for the incurring of debt and issuance of $20 million of general obligation bonds, Series 2023 of Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Okay, I see there is a motion by Commissioner Johnson and seconded by Commissioner Atkins. Any comments? Commissioner Johnson?
I'll wait.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes. I remain concerned, and I've expressed this to Dr. Wilson. I've expressed this to Assistant Administrator Ms. Bryant about how we do our bond transactions. And I've had a chance to read this. And one of the things that really concerns me is that as I look at our bond team, the vast majority of our bond team are folks that do not come from Shreveport. And that is a concern for me, because one of the things that we continue to have issues with is the outmigration of professional talent here in Shreveport. And I just do not believe that we don't have folks here in Shreveport that are not capable of doing this work. I do not know of a scenario or a situation where bond attorneys from Shreveport are getting work out of New Orleans, are getting work out of East Baton Rouge, are getting work out of Jefferson Parish. And I just think that if we are going to ever grow our professional services, our professional class here in Shreveport, we need to emphasize homegrown talent. People who have a vested interest here. This is nothing against Mr. Grant. This is nothing against Argent Financial. This is nothing against them. This is about supporting folks who are here in Shreveport. We have folks who donate their time. We have folks who donate their resources back to citizens of Caddo Parish. And I can't continue to just sit and watch us send our resources other places. It is a concern for me, and I hope that it is a concern for everybody on this horseshoe here. How can we look professionals who are right here in Shreveport in the face and say, we're about growing Caddo Parish, but when it's time to give out opportunities, we look over them. We look to other places. We can be a place where we export goods and services, and we can grow our own goods and services. But we have to make an intentional and deliberate effort to do so. And so I know this is a two-reader, but I am concerned as I read through this. A lot of this stuff is not in Shreveport. I think I see one person on here in Shreveport, and I don't see any minorities. Now, we just paid, the city put in $150,000, the parish put in $150,000, the port put up some money to pay for this grand disparity study that talks about creating opportunities here locally. And here we have a $20 million series on the table. And as I read it, only one person on this deal is local. How can we sustain as a community? I read the bond rating issue where we got downgraded recently. And what it talked about was our inability to grow and sustain a professional workforce. And in some instances, we have no control over that because we can't determine where companies will locate. But in instances like this, I really believe we need to make a deliberate effort to put Caddo Parish first. Caddo Parish bond attorneys, Caddo Parish agents. We have those folks right here in our community, and I'm going to continue to preach that because until we do, we will continue to have that outmigration of professional talent, whether they're young, old, experienced, or whatever. I would like to see somebody who sit as co-bond counsel with Mr. Grant who can be learning this process. Because if you don't ever teach anybody, you'll never grow and hone that experience. And so when the next opportunity come around, they're gonna say you're not qualified. That is what growing our community looks like from the inside out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do agree with much of what Commissioner Jackson just said about trying to find some of our local talent to support these issues. Of course, it's a competitive world, and we have to ensure that the quality of services that we receive are appropriate. But I hope that there are situations where we could employ some local folks on these types of bond issuances. So that's point one. Point two is the Finance Committee met on this issue last week. We didn't have a quorum, but a subset of the Finance Committee met and worked through these issues, worked through the budget. We've continued to encourage Dr. Wilson and the administration team to continue to look for ways to value engineer this project
ensure that we stay on top of our suppliers here and our service providers, and make sure that we, screw down on these costs as much as possible, and ensure that this project comes in at a reasonable cost level. We all know inflation is out of hand right now. Hopefully it'll change before we actually get before we'll actually have any proposals on the table. But let's please continue to watch the costs on this and ensure that it comes in at the lowest possible cost with appropriate quality for our shareholders. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. With all due respect, Commissioner Jackson and I may have a different type of opinion on this matter. And I want you all to know from my perspective, from the last time we issued a bond, we did have minority participation. We have 3 minority participators in our last bond issue, and we fully intend to have minority participation at this time. As you all may recall, Mr. Alex Washington has always been the bond counsel on several of all the bonds we issued for the last several years. We don't issue a lot of bonds to begin with, but he has always served in that capacity. And the idea was that at some point when Mr. Grant Sluter retires, that we will have someone that's locally here that could take that role and go forward. Last time we had Mr. Alex Washington, we had Mr. Greg Tarver's daughter on the bond issue, and we also had Mr. Nandy, who is a minority company on the bond issue as well. Now, when I came here 22 years ago, Mr. Grant Sluter was already here, and this company was working with us for perhaps 3 decades. Right now, all the propositions that you all read when you go to the election, to the booth to vote on the issue, Mr. Sluter drafts all that for us for free. Any questions we have relative for voting issues, we call Mr. Grant Sluter. He never hits the clock. So he has put in more time than he's earned on these bonds that he's issued for us, because he has never failed us yet to provide that information for us when we needed it, and free of charge. So I felt obliged to be loyal to the person that was loyal to the organization, and I see there's a win-win when Mr. Grant has been doing all this work for years for us and has not charged us a dime for that service. So that's my perspective on it. As I said, and I preferenced it with all due respect, I think Mr. Grant Sluter had fought diligently side by side with us for many years for us to even get the AAA bond rating in the first place. So I just see, my perspective, I think we ought to be loyal to the person below to us. And yes, I'm sensitive about homegrown talent. That's why we try to look for homegrown talent. The last time we issued a bond, and we fully expect to do so this time as well.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, with much respect, I'm going to say what I said a minute ago.
Yes, sir.
This is not about an individual person. You're making this about Mr. Grant Sluter. This is not who this is about.
Yeah, but I did mention that we had minority participation. That was your main point.
I didn't cut you off.
Pardon me?
I didn't cut you off.
Okay, now we won't have
okay.
a back and forth. Go ahead on.
I listen. This is about giving our local folks an opportunity.
We have that.
Alex Washington and Lauren Tarver, we had to press that issue. Because I keep all my emails.
If you go back to
we had to. I gave you your chance.
Okay.
Okay. I listened. Okay. All I'm saying is that issue had to be pressed up on this administration to do that. In fact, I believe we adopted an amendment that required us to do minority participation. I remember it. We can go in the record and pull it. Myself, and at the time, Commissioner Cawthorn, we pressed that issue. I believe Alex Washington can sit in the first chair. He shouldn't have to be somebody's co-counsel. I believe at some point, the Tarvers of the world, the Ebony Norrises who donate her time to help folks. She don't ever send us a bill for getting expungements. Why can't, and I don't mean to name drop folks. What I'm saying is we have folks right here that can do this work and they never get the opportunity to do it. Because, look, if I've done something for 30+ years with every governmental body in Shreveport and Caddo Parish, of course I can afford after 30+ years to donate some time. I ought to do that. I can't give you a pat on the back for that because you've been, I ain't but 36.
Okay.
So for all my life, one person has been doing this work. When are we going to give people who lay their head down, who pay taxes in Caddo Parish the opportunity to sit in the first chair? And it means something to have that first chair occupied by somebody from Caddo Parish. If you don't believe it, go out there and talk to these attorneys. It means something to them. And we can't be tone deaf and think that we're giving them opportunities when we're giving them nothing. Name a situation where Caddo Parish attorneys or Caddo Parish professionals are going and skipping the line in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Jefferson Parish, Plaquemines. They focus on their people first. And that's all I'm saying. And that shouldn't be something that becomes a controversy, because if we're all for Caddo Parish, it's a no-brainer. Let's put the home team first. And if we're gonna go forward with this, I think it needs to be, I think we need to start preparing to turn that page. Because if we don't ever turn the page, we're gonna be just like we were with Mr. Ray Cornelius, God bless him, he's gone. We're gonna be scrambling trying to find somebody who can do this stuff with Mr. Ray Cornelius, after Ray, because it took about 3 years to find somebody. Now David Wolf was able to take his place, but David was not Ray. And we cannot afford to have these vacuums here when we got folks who can do it right now. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, that takes us to, are you finished?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Takes us to Commissioner Johnson.
Call for the question on this ordinance.
Second. Okay, there's a call for the question. We'll vote on the call for the question. Can we vote?
No, it's not up yet on mine.
Should be up any moment. There you go.
All right, please vote.
All right, that passes, and that is with 11 in support, 1 in opposition. And so that brings us to the question at hand.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that should have been a yes, Jeff.
Oh, okay, so 12 it should
What
be.
are we doing?
Should reflect, that's calling for the question.
Okay, I'm right.
Okay, the call for the question has been voted on, and now we're going to vote on the ordinance. Okay, you're up for vote.
And that passes with 11 in support, 1 in opposition. That brings us now to authorizing Resolution 3 of 2023. That's a resolution to request the Parish Planning and Zoning Commission to create an R-1-43 district or zone.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Epperson. Are there any comments? Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, before this meeting, I actually was coming down to withdraw this particular resolution, but I changed my mind. The issue that I have, and it's quite simple, and I don't know why we're making it so complex. All I was trying to do, RA would remain the same, stay like it is. We're creating an RI-43. It will match the R112, the R17, the R110, and the R15. They will all be consistent. That's all it would be. It does not exclude a mobile manufacturing home from going into anywhere. It just has to be done by special use only. So basically what this would do as we get developers starting to develop within that 5-mile zone, we have many neighborhoods now that did not do a covenant. This will force that developer to come up with the zoning for that area. Everybody would know it. As I mentioned earlier, first-time home builders, second-time home builders, typically mostly first-time home builders, they find a spot, I like this spot, I want to build a house here, they dump their life savings in there. Now, did they know that something like this could happen? No, they didn't. All this does is put another step in place that would allow that homeowner to know that he does not or she does not have to worry about having a manufactured home being built next to them if they're doing it. We do it with the R112, we do it with the R110, R17, and the R15. There's no changes between that. They will all be the same, and you'll still have your RA. And the RA, they'll still be able to put them in there regardless. So coming up with these strange scenarios and we just want everything in mobile home parks, that's not what I'm saying. If you go over to Bossier, people always complain, well, you all ought to compare yourself to Bossier. Well, guess what? Bossier has strict zones. You can't put them there. They have to go into a park. So you want it one way or you want it another way. And I get tired of people coming down here saying that we don't do nothing. We do a lot. And then some things that we try to do to make Caddo better, you complain about it. If we just sit here and just say we're just gonna push buttons or whatever administration put on the agenda, everybody be happy. No, that's not how this works. There are other people who are complaining about the situation of having manufactured homes in their neighborhood. They don't speak about it because they elected people to speak for them. My district has 18,000 people. One person does not control me. When there's other people who complain about it, they call, they complain, and they want their representative to put something on the agenda to help them. That's what I've been doing. This is just not my ideal. There are other people who have the same type of idea. They want that kind of protection because they don't have a covenant in place. If they had a covenant in place, wouldn't matter. I always get y'all to say, come ride out to Lakeview. You'll be able to see single wide trailers and you'll be able to see $3 million houses. All in the same neighborhood because there is no covenant. And with this way that this is, that wouldn't even affect this because none of them are acre lots. Until you get further in the back where the bigger houses are, but the rest of them are the R15 and the R17s. And there are manufactured homes in there, special use permit. So if the street already has 3 or 4 of them on there, fine, you can put another one on there. But if that whole block has a site-built homes, why would you stick one on there, regardless? It's the perception that people have until we educate everybody to it. That's their perception. That's what they complain about. So I ask y'all to support this. It's nothing that's, I heard, well, discrimination. It's not discrimination. All it is basically saying we want to develop another zone that will protect the RAs, and if they want to go into RA, you got it. But this is a R143, and it will fall under the same as the 12, 7, 10, and 5. That's all it is. And I think that's a very good compromise from what I first came out with. That's all I have.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Johnson, this is a request for the Parish Planning and Zoning Commission, right?
Correct.
So this is something they would still have to review amongst themselves
And
to
vote on.
approve. Would it have to come back to us again after
Yes.
them?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just in the beginning stages with the request today.
That's all.
So after this vote today, nothing is going to be imminent.
Nothing will change.
Okay, that's it, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hopkins?
So, Commissioner Johnson, my question is, you've got houses on one side of the road over there, and over here you have property that people own. They may have owned it 100 years from now. They come in, they want to put a mobile home on there. You're saying RA, it's okay.
Right.
So it's not, it's not changing anything. What was the whole reason for the R143 then?
Can I answer that
Because
So,
I still don't
so,
have it.
so here you got a developer that comes in that want to establish a neighborhood, okay? Or there's already some that's already established, but they want to go through and get a covenant and change the zoning from where they are RAs to R143. It will now allow them to do that, and anybody that moves into that neighborhood will then have to follow the R143. If you're across the street and you got 5 acres or whatever it is, it's still a RA. Now, if that developer comes in and say, I want to build a neighborhood here, structured neighborhood, you turn all that RAs into R143s. That's all it is.
Okay.
And it's only in the suburban area and not the rural area.
Right, well, I have some of that planning area too. And the people I represent in that planning area, I don't want to see that. So, I mean, that's just, so I won't be, and you know, I've told you from the beginning, I do not support this on many avenues, because I think we're taking, by doing that, we're taking that use by right away some. And I don't like, that's one of the things I don't like.
It's really not.
But that's okay.
It's not though.
I'm one vote, but I'm telling you, the area that I represent that's in that planning area, they're not for this. They don't support this. They don't want to see this. And a covenant doesn't hold up worth anything in court. I mean, it's a piece of paper.
Well, I have to disagree with that because I've had some people that their taxes have been held up for that reason. So
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay then, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hopkins? Okay, Commissioner Epperson.
Commissioner Johnson, you make perfectly good sense to me. My constituents also have concerns with this, and I will be supporting this. And I think we should give our parish planning board the opportunity to peruse this and come up with a decision, because that's why we have them in place. They're coming up with other decisions. That's why they were separated. So this is something that should be brought to them. So I would be supporting this, and I haven't gotten any dissension from any of my constituents, but a lot of constituents that's in favor of this, so I will be supporting this. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, that's it, Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I had requested last time this was on the agenda to move it to a committee, because I think this is probably the 4th time now that this has come up, and every time we've had people come and speak against it and tell us that they don't want it. I'd love to sit in a committee, and like Commissioner Johnson said, there's a lot of lack of education on what he's trying to push. I would like to understand it. I have a district that's completely in the city, so my constituents, it doesn't bother them, but I hear people from both sides of the rural community saying they're for and against it on this horseshoe, but I only see citizens that have come down here in person saying that they're against it. So I'd like to sit in a committee to understand it, to educate the public, and to hear from some citizens that do want us to implement this, so that we have a clear, defined path to take. Now, I'm saying all this because I can't make the motion, but I wanted to say this, so when it comes on Thursday, I'll be pushing to move this to a committee if it gets to Thursday. But that's what I would like to see, because there's still people that obviously want this done because Commissioner Johnson keeps putting this on here. And there's obviously people that don't want this done because they keep on coming down here saying they don't want it. So I want to hear from some people to come down here from the rural community to tell us what is it.
So, not rural.
It's half suburban, half rural, but I'd like to hear from them, what is it that's trying to be accomplished? And I applaud Commissioner Johnson. He is not giving up. I'll applaud him on that, but I'd like to hear why he's working so hard on this from some of those citizens. Thank you, President.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson for the second time.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the rules to allow some of my time to be for a citizen to speak in favor of this.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to suspend the time.
So allow him to speak on some of my time.
Okay. All right, we have that motion and second by Commissioner Epperson. We can vote now?
He's coming up.
Yep.
And, I'm sorry, was that by acclamation?
No, I don't think so.
Well, let's vote. Y'all want to
Said
vote?
You can go. Okay, that passes. Yes, thank you. That passes with 8 in support, 2 in opposition, and 2 absent.
Okay, how much time would that be?
I had 7 minutes, so I'm yielding my time to him.
Okay. All right. State your name for the record.
Robert Winden, 4748 Rice Road, Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm in support of the resolution. You already have, it's 15 zoning resolutions that you already have. And in those 15, you only have 3 that you can place a mobile home without any objections. And all we are trying to do is, I've heard you say the rights. You have a person there with a house, you're taking the rights away from them. When you say, okay, they can move a mobile home there without doing anything, just move it there, no notifications. And it's ironic that you can let that happen in a neighborhood when if I decide to build a house in a mobile home park, I have to go through the zoning. Now, you're doing one thing here for the mobile home park, and the other thing you're not doing for the homeowner. They talk about mobile homes, they try to downplay it, but the average cost for a mobile home, double wide, is like $160,000. This southern average for a mobile home is $160,000 for a double wide, $82,000 for a single wide. Now that doesn't include site preparation, which you have to clear, the setup, the home delivery, the foundation, the skirting, the utility connection, air conditioning, deck, steps, and other options. It doesn't include that. So you're looking at a double wide mobile home, $200,000. Now, if you look at a stick house, $200,000 is $200,000 would be 2,000 square foot house. But the main objection is give the homeowner the opportunity to say, okay, it's fine that he moves it there, or I'm going to object to it because I think it's going to bring the value down. And when I say bring the value down, if you turn around and want to sell a mobile home, they go by a book value. And all they ask you is the serial number, the make, the model, the year, the size, the bedrooms, and the bath. They don't even have to come out and look at it. And they estimate the value. Now, if you have a house that you want to sell, you're going to get 3 comps in the area, which is, they're doing this at the office. They don't even come out and look at it because it's a book value on a mobile home. So that part there would affect your home value because they don't come out and look at the mobile home. They're just going by what's the book value. Another thing about the mobile home, they don't pay taxes. They pay, let me get to it. They pay the taxes for automobile, the registration tax. It's like a car. So they are not paying really taxes to the parish. They go to the motor vehicle registration and pay taxes there. So we're not saying don't, you can't move it there. We're just saying, give us the opportunity to say, okay, it's okay, or no. You know, that's what most people, when you say rights, those are the rights to give me the opportunity to say, okay, no, I don't like that. Or either the person who's moving a mobile home there, they wouldn't want me to go to a mobile home park and build a house there without them knowing it. So, like I say, you have some other zonings in there, but I'm for this resolution.
Okay. Appears that you got 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. President, for letting that public comment be heard. Thank you, Ms. Wines. I just wanted to make sure that commissioners knew there was people here that was in support of it, not just nobody ever comes down. Actually, it was a whole community that came down when it was first introduced, and then we voted against it. So just wanted to let you know that people have been coming down in support of this. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jones for the second time.
Call for the question.
Second. All right, been moved and seconded to call for the question. I'm sorry?
It's really not the way, it's not, what we just did is really not sure. We were in the middle of a motion and a second in discussion. It wasn't really time for asking questions to people. I mean, that's not what we've done in the past.
Well, I suspended the rules. I made a motion to suspend the rules and voted on that.
So they still suspended?
Rules are
Yes,
still
and there needs to be a
suspended.
motion to move back
Yeah,
into
so we need to
session.
make a motion to go back.
I move to take the same amount of time and have Ms. Tappy come back up. And to answer some of the questions.
We didn't ask him any questions. He just made a comment.
She's gonna answer some questions related to that issue.
But she already
I'm not gonna ask her.
Okay,
She's
we
gonna
won't
give
have a back and
information.
forth, if you would.
She's gonna give information. How about
But
that?
they already got a call for the question, so you can't make that motion now.
Okay, Madam Attorney, you want to straighten this out for us?
Oh, no, they're
I have a
right.
second for my
You
comment.
got the call for the question. You have
We
to
good?
vote.
Okay, then. There's been a call for the question, there's been a motion and a second. I'm sorry?
We've got to go back into.
There's no
Okay.
motion on the floor to call for it if the rules are suspended, guys.
Okay, I move that we go back into regular session, whatever we need to do, so we can move forward.
Okay. We've been moving, okay.
That's fair.
Been moving,
Does everybody
second, go
acclimate?
back into session. Are there any questions? I don't think so. Let's vote.
We're gonna vote or?
That should be by acclamation. Everybody should be ready to move
No.
on.
Now we vote.
Well, whatever, we need to move on. We either for it or we against it.
So, Mr. President, for clarity, we're voting to.
We are voting to move back into session. Okay, as we refresh this, because I'm getting, okay.
Yes, that passes by 8 in support, 4 in opposition. And so that brings us back into regular session.
Where are we on that? Speak.
Trying to.
Clerk,
It's on the,
I'm asking the question first. Where are we, once we get back in, where are we?
So you go back in, you'd be at the point where you have a motion and second, that was the original motion and second that's been being discussed, so,
So
that
we're in
is
discussion.
authorizing the item.
So we're in discussion on the item.
Correct, yeah,
Still
so
in discussion.
if you would recall, the motion that was made to move into that, to go out of, regular, session was essentially when Commissioner Johnson had that time in lieu of his comment time.
Okay, so we are back into discussion, and I have on the board Commissioner Epperson.
Call for the question on the motion.
Okay,
Second.
motion has been called in second. Are there any questions? If not, we can vote on that. Let's vote, please. On call for the question.
All right, that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition.
Okay, so now we are back on the motion.
You got to have two.
got two in
Yes.
opposition.
Oh, I'm sorry, did us, Two are in opposition. What, did I say none?
You
I
did.
apologize. I apologize. It was 10 in support, 2 in opposition, none abstaining or absent. But that does still pass by majority.
Okay. That takes us back to the motion at hand, to the issue at hand. Let's vote.
And that passes by majority vote with 6 in favor, 5 in opposition, 1 abstaining to advance to Thursday's agenda.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
We have one to abstain, we need.
The person who abstained, I understand, need to make a statement.
Yeah. I actually would have did it if the question hadn't been called, but there's potential conflict of interest for me on this, so I'll abstain. Whether it passes or fails, is possible conflict of interest for me, so thank you.
All right. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
And I'm sorry, just because of the screens here, I just want to make sure I heard correctly. Commissioner Jackson gave his reason for abstention, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to the next item, which is authorizing a special resolution of appreciation for Grace Point Church of the Nazarene and Pastor David Craig.
Move for advancement to Thursday's agenda for presentation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Are there any comments?
No, sir.
Look like I see some people on the board here.
I'm on. I just want to be added as a sponsor.
Okay, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to be added as a sponsor.
Okay, please add Ms. Gage Watts, Commissioner Gage Watts as a sponsor. Commissioner Johnson.
Want to advance in global that 11.6, 11.7, 11.8, 11.9, and then you get 2 at the top.
The
The 4.1 and the 4.2.
Agenda additions?
The 2 agenda additions.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to advance. You want to repeat those again?
All your special resolutions and appointments.
Okay, Commissioner Clerk, do you have that?
I do. That is 11.6, 11.7, 11.8, 11.9, and then the agenda additions, which in an updated format, those are going to be 11.14 and 15.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I have
My
one.
deal here is stuck or something.
I'm sorry?
I think the deal here is stuck or something.
It is.
The vote results.
There it is.
So,
We're
There
stuck.
we go.
so
What's
I don't
happening?
see any now, so I
Oh, there
assume
we
it's
go.
unstuck.
So, Mr. President, I'd like to make a amendment to that motion to remove 11.7 and take it by itself.
Okay, it's been moved. Okay, it's been motioned to amend it. Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Young. Are there any questions? If not, do we need to vote on that?
If I could, 11.7 is it's somewhat unusual in that the item was on the agenda. It was postponed for there to be additional consideration of other nominees. So the item is on as to appoint someone to that position. But because we knew that there could be different people who were going to be, there would be a motion for a different person perhaps. Those people are listed underneath with their sponsor's name next to them, for advancement. So you can advance it by title, and that would advance either of the applicants, or you could choose one and advance that. That's the will of the body.
I was still on the board.
Commissioner
to speak.
Gage Watts.
I was still on the board to speak, but we are, okay, now it's back on. It went to the voting screen. And I think Commissioner Everson was also on the board to speak. Is there anyone else
Okay,
who was on the board?
well, I just acknowledged it.
or you want to speak now?
Yes, I just wanted to be added as a sponsor also for item 11.9.
Okay. And Commissioner Epperson.
Okay, I'm sort of lost now. Are we voting on the removal, are we debating on the removal of 11.7?
We should be on. That's what
No.
we should be on. That's the motion.
But it's not.
I'm sorry?
That's what we should be on because that was the motion.
Well, that was the motion for the amendment.
Right, the amendment
To be
to
amended.
basically just remove that
Right.
out of the englobo.
Then we got into discussion.
You take it by
Well, we can
itself.
vote on that.
Okay, well, I'd like to speak on it.
Okay.
Yeah, since he got it, you did get a second, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you got a
Okay,
second.
I'm not gonna support this because all we're doing is advancing these two names to Thursday. You can add, subtract, everything that we do today, we just advancing to Thursday. Nothing is final until Thursday. So I see no reason to remove number 7. If you wanna add someone or subtract them, you can do that on Thursday. So I would not be supporting that. I'll be supporting the main motion to englobo as we had stated. Thank you.
Okay, we still got to vote on it being amended. Is there anyone else to speak on that? If not, we'll take a vote on amending it. Mr. Clerk. We're voting on the amendment.
Okay, that amendment does not pass. It had 5 in support, 7 in opposition, none abstaining or absent, and so that's.
So that takes us back to the original motion to advance that number of resolutions and whatever the other appointments.
Correct.
Okay, let's vote.
And that passes with 11 in support, 1 in opposition, 0 abstaining or absent. That brings us now to 11.10, which is discussion of crime lab funding from Commissioner Epperson.
Just a point on discussion. I'm assuming after we get the committee appointments, I think we should further discuss this, if there's anything that we're going to do relative to helping the crime lab out. So that's all I want to do. Once we get the committees in place, let's remand that to the proper committee where we can discuss that, bring it back to the full body. That's all I
Well,
want to
we
say.
we have committees, and those are all committees that I know that we have. So are you saying that we need to do that at this, you would like to do that at this point?
Let's advance this until Thursday and then give us a
Do it
chance to
on Thursday.
peruse what appropriate committee, and I think we'll sign the check committee on Thursday.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second to advance it?
I'll move since I had it on the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Commissioner Epperson and seconded by Commissioner Gage Watts to advance this item number 11.10. Let's vote. Hope somebody on the board. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We kind of came up with a plan of action as far as trying to make sure that we get the other parishes involved during the Police Jury Association meeting in March. How are we coming along with that, Dr. Wilson? The plan of action we talked about 2 weeks ago of getting all the parishes that are involved, the 26 parishes, during the convention, having a meeting with them, explaining and having the director to come down and basically saying what's going to be needed by each parish. Have anybody had any discussion with him and those parishes?
I'm still working on that one, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments? If not, let's vote.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. That passes with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent to advance that discussion to the Thursday agenda. And that brings us now to discuss amending bylaws to include procedures for selection and voting of interim commissioners.
Okay.
clear so I can make that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Epperson and seconded by Commissioner Jones. Are there any comments?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I would like to advance 11:11 and 11:12 to Thursday's meeting and ask that this will be placed in the Personnel and Policies Committee.
Okay, is that?
I'll second.
All right, is that a substitute motion?
You got a second already on that stuff on it.
Sir?
Is that a substitute motion because?
No, sir, that's the,
Because
that's the
Commissioner
body.
Jones seconded first time.
It's fine. He's fine. Step on is good. I see that he already had.
Okay. All right, it's been motion by Commissioner Epperson and seconded by Commissioner Stefan Jones to advance what again? I'm sorry.
11:11 and 11:12 to Thursday and assign those tasks to the Personnel Policies and Procedures Committee.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Questions?
I-
Commissioner Hopkins.
I guess my question was, do we really need to send it to Thursday and just send it straight to the Policies and Personnel Committee?
Well, you know, everything, you know, we have to advance it to Thursday for final action, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, I believe we're ready to vote. Okay, that passes with 12 in support, none in opposition. That brings us to inviting representative from Shreveport Green to discuss the litter problem in Caddo Shreveport.
I'd like to move that the commission clerk will have someone from Shreveport Green be present at our meeting upon Thursday.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Epperson, who is the sponsor of this legislation. Who would be the second?
Commissioner Hopkins.
Commissioner Hopkins, second. Okay, are there any question or comments? Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes, I would just like to be added as co-sponsor for this legislation.
Okay, Commissioner Jones.
I'd also like to be added as co-sponsor for this legislation.
Okay. All right, there are no other. It's time to vote.
And that motion carries with 12 in support, none in opposition. And that brings us to the conclusion of the new business section. That we are now at communications and committee reports.
Get on the board. If you want to make any comments or communication. Okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
I sent you and Ms. Bryan as well as Sheldon with NDC an email about a community neighborhood participation meeting regarding rezoning Notre Dame school. If somebody could be in, somebody familiar with that process, because I do believe they submitted for the E. Edward Jones Housing Trust Fund. If somebody could be in attendance to hear citizen feedback, community feedback. And for the public, that meeting will take place January 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. at St. Augustine Missionary Baptist Church. 2931 Murphy Street. This particular project is not necessarily in my commission district, but in another role, I've had conversations with them in another capacity. But I do think that it is important that, because they submitted for our housing trust fund process, I do think that we do need to have some ears in the room to hear how citizens feel about it. Also, I believe I copied you on the email regarding Amazon supply chain issues. I did get Councilwoman Taylor's email saying that they had spoke, and I just got an email from Jessica as well talking about they don't have a date. I think we are getting to a point in scenario where we can't just keep saying we don't have a date, we don't have a date, we don't have a date. And I think our citizens grow weary and they go tired of that. We have invested public incentives in that process. And I would like to know if they have, if those abatements were taken advantage of this tax year, because I do think we did some pretty good property tax abatements for them from the city and the parish, I believe. I think through the Industrial Development Board. So I do believe that, you know, as stakeholders from the incentive side and taxpayers deserve to know something more than we just don't have a date. Now, I don't want to poke the bear, and I know that we have to be diligent in this process. But folks had an anticipation that jobs would be coming, and that multiplier jobs would be created in transportation forward. And so, you know, I just think something a little bit more concrete. I'll leave it to y'all to figure out what that looks like and how we do it.
Yes, sir.
But I do think it's time to talk.
Yes, sir. We did reach out. I had another commissioner ask me for the status on that, and I went through NLEP to get to Jessica. And what we were told that they were planning on start hiring their process this fall.
This fall?
This fall.
Fall 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes.
Because the last email I got was Q1.
This coming fall.
Yeah.
And that she would get back with us again on another conference call.
Yeah.
In March, to give us an update in March.
Because that's pushing us. Because if we're saying fall 2023, if there's another delay, that pushes us into 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So, you know, like I say, I just think that we need to talk about some things, because I know the school board is getting their portion, and the sheriff is getting his portion, but I think the parish and the city, we abated our portion in good faith, and you know, things happen, but those are resources that we're now having to forego. Because the abatement took effective immediately, I believe. Right?
Yeah, we need to ask the I reached out
IDB.
to Ramesh, Mike Broussard on
Mike
that.
Broussard.
Mike Broussard on that, and Steve. But they're going to have another update with all of us
on
in March.
That's fine. I just think
I think she'll open it up to anybody that want to get on the call.
Okay. Well, I know we got that TIF committee, subcommittee, and I just think that we need to make sure that we are doing our due diligence.
Is everyone hearing what the conversation is?
I'm
Seems
sorry,
like
are
it's
y'all
kinda
not?
two-way.
My bad. Really got to fix these mics in here. But no, what we're talking about is the Amazon building opening. What we keep getting is they're pushing back. They don't have a date. And again, this is not to be antagonistic, but when you put public funds or put public incentives into a project, there needs to be some tangible communication other than we just don't have a date.
Yes.
That puts us in a bind when citizens are asking us, what's going on, what's the status, and the building looks beautiful. I am a little disappointed that DOTD did one side of the street and didn't do the other side of the street. But, you know, I just think that we've got to start drilling in, and now that you're saying the last communication is now fall 2023.
Yes.
There's only 2 months in the fall here in Louisiana. And so that scares me, because then if there's another delay, that puts us into 2024.
Yes.
And if we need to start coming up with contingent plans and things like that, then I like for us to be on the front end of that and not the tail end of it, because things happen.
Right.
Things happen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Jackson and Commissioners, the question that arose a week or so ago was Amazon had made an announcement about laying off about 18,000 employees. And so we reached out to them and asked them, does that include the Shreveport plant? Of course, they haven't hired anybody yet. And the answer we got was that only had to do with the IT element within the operation and not the logistical part of it. And that was the answer we got. And then your next update will be in March. And we plan to hire this fall. And that's how they responded to our request for additional information.
Right.
And they will be having another meeting with us in March by way of update.
Well, Mr. President, what I'm saying is, Doc,
I get it.
loop me in on that.
Yes, sir, I will.
Because I think we need to know a little bit more concrete information. We're getting to that
I'll
point.
ask a question about the abatements and stuff.
And
See.
citizens they're growing weary. Is this thing gonna happen? And that's what's out there. Thank you, Mr.
We have a
President.
nice facility if they don't.
Well, we don't need another empty nice facility. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right,
President.
then,
Yes, sir.
that finishes your comment. That takes us to Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to loop back with Dr. Wilson and
Yes, sir.
revisit this issue of local content. I'd love to see some more local people involved in the issuance of bonds. However, I respect the position you're in and the other drivers of a decision you have to make with regard to this. It's quality, price, value, experience.
Yes, sir.
So I would never want any one aspect to drive a decision, as I'm sure you're not
Right.
tending to do. So I just wanted to reiterate my respect for your role and the balance you have to play between
Yes, sir.
local and quality and value and price. So
Right, that's correct, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez.
President, I'm going to email it to you instead.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two comments. First, Dr. Wilson, does the back gate at the parking lot work?
Is the back what?
The back gate of our parking lot, does it work?
It should be.
It wasn't working today for me.
If not, we need,
I couldn't get in today.
we'll get our technicians to take a look at that, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then the second is there's a meeting of the Broadmoor Neighborhood Association this evening. The topic is the future of Arthur Circle Elementary School, which was suddenly closed by the school board a couple years ago. It should be well attended. It takes place at Broadmoor Presbyterian Church at 1915 Grover Place. I have invited interim commissioner and our new colleague, Ron Cothran, to come and meet some of his constituents there and be introduced by me if they'll let me. And I hope some of you will be there too, and those who are listening. Thank you. That's all, Mr. President.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Jones.
I came off, took myself off.
Came off. Okay, Commissioner Jackson for a second time.
Yes, Mr. President, I just want to make sure that I be on the record, Commissioner Atkins. We have been duly elected, and when you read the bond ordinance, it states that the Caddo Parish Commission, those decisions lie with the Caddo Commission as the governing authority. And I'm not going to just, I understand that there's a lot of things that go in it, but I refuse to believe that we cannot find somebody local to do this work. And I'm gonna die on that hill. I refuse to believe we cannot find quality, fair-priced work in Caddo Parish. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir. I just want to let you all know that the current capacity at the juvenile detention center now is down to 24. So there have been some changes since we've been meeting here today. So we're back at a good spot, and hopefully OJJ will come and pick their kids up, and that'll give us even more room.
Okay. Since I don't have a speaker button to highlight, since I was corrected earlier, there is an update to the redistricting plan that should be online either now or soon to be. Our demographer, Mr. Floyd, Cedric Floyd, has been updating this information as we speak. And there should be a couple of other new plans that should be on the online, so you can go online and take a look. And that's the only thing that I have. Mr. Clerk, are they, well, down to citizens' comment, late arrivals, and I don't have any.
Yes, I have another one, please.
Oh, okay. Let's step.
I see we've lost
Excuse me,
Do you have
Mr. Johnson.
Do you have a?
Ms.
Do
Clark.
I need another card? It's the same one as before.
I would think. I think for record.
I'll be glad to fill one out.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Go
Okay.
ahead on with that.
All right. Am I good?
You're good.
Okay. I don't understand how Commissioner Johnson could suspend the rules, but Mr. Hopkins couldn't to let me speak a while ago, so I'm just going to speak, and with no disrespect at all to the gentleman who spoke a while ago. I don't know who he is. I don't know where he got his information from. But I can tell you, I've been in real estate for 20-plus years. And I'm going to use my words carefully. Most of everything he said, I'm sorry, that it's just not true. I mean, I can take it one by one. Even if we use the figure that he said for $160,000 for a manufactured home and all the skirting and all the blah, blah, blah. I brought you those numbers a month ago. It's $160,000 for you to put a brand new manufactured home? No, 10 acres, 8 acres, 7 acres, acreage. Not a quarter of an acre lot, which is what it costs to build a brand new stick-built brick, blah, 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 that starts at 130 to 190 a square foot. So there is no way on this planet you're gonna get a 2,000 square foot brick home for $200,000. It ain't happening. It's numbers, guys. It's numbers. It's what I do in real estate. He also mentioned there were no taxes. Untrue. I'm sorry. Manufactured home and mobile home people pay taxes just like everybody else's do. They pay their prorated taxes and their portion of taxes just like everybody else's does. Another thing, if I live in a mobile home park and you want to come build a brick home next to me, I'm going to say, come on. Do you think I'm going to say, no, we don't want you here? So that was a moot argument and a silly one. I say y'all, coming from over here, his argument is it brings down the value. That is the whole point. You're trying to say from up here that people who live in manufactured and mobile homes, they don't have value in their homes. They're not going to keep the value in their homes. They're not going to maintain the value in their homes. This is all baloney. It is not true. Now, I started off like I always do, trying to be nice and state facts. Now y'all getting goofy. If y'all want to take it on to Thursday and you want me to get everybody I know lined up in these seats talking against it, then we can do that too. Versus one little gentleman, which I am sorry, no disrespect, his information was not correct. You can pick anybody here or off the street to come up here and just say stuff.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay? Y'all, you want to fight? Bring it. Okay?
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. That's not meant ugly. That's meant, come on, stop. Get with it. Listen. Pay attention, listen to the numbers, and listen to us. You're trying to stop manufactured and mobiles, whether that's what you're saying or not.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Clerk, back to you.
That brings us to consent agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, adjourn.